you a people pleaser? If not you, you've probably encountered one along the way. What's the most interesting thing about people pleasers is, oh my gosh, I just lost all my notes. I'm gonna have to go. Oh my God. I'm glad nobody's watching right now. This is like really crazy. Okay. So, are you a people pleaser? I wish this wasn't live and then I could have like, wow, really this far. Okay. Are you a people pleaser? If not you, then I know you've encountered one along the way. The interesting thing is most people pleasers don't even realize that's what's going on with them. I didn't think I was a people pleaser until I learned some specific information. So hi, for those of you that don't know me, I'm Deb Pearson, and I am going to talk about um, the ways that we people please, other names that it goes by, where it came from, and what possible superpowers you may have because of it. Thanks, Sharon. It's irrelevant. I lost my paper. I couldn't find it, but we're back and it's all good. So thanks for being here. So what are some of the ways that we people please? Sometimes and this is the unhealthy ways, and I want to kind of do a general statement that overall, this is just in general and not like very specific to people. So it's not an all, how do I explain this? It's like, so this is some of the unhealthier ways that we people please. We might say, you matter, but I don't. And what happens in those cases is we put other people more important than us. When we say yes, when what we really mean is to say no. So I'm not talking about if your partner says, hey, could you come with me? And you're like, oh, I really don't want to go. And they're like, oh, please come. And you go, all right. And you go, that's fine. But let's just say you're exhausted and you go, I really don't want to go. I'm so tired. And they're like, I really want you to come with me. And so you go out of fear that if you don't go, then I don't know, they won't like you. They'll get mad at you or something. So there's the key in there that maybe it's a fearful behavior. If you do, so you do things that you may not want to do because you don't want the other person to get mad at you. You may worry about other people's opinions of you. Like, I really better do this thing, like volunteer or show up in particular places, because if I don't, this group of people are going to ostracize me. They're not going to want to participate with me, and that's super uncomfortable. Setting boundaries is very difficult. And this is another one of the difficult or unhealthy versions of people pleasing. But we've got some really good stuff coming up, so I hope you stick with me for it. So just a couple of more. If you feel guilt or shame a lot, to the point of where you shouldn't, I mean, again, obviously, if you've done something specifically wrong, hurt somebody in some way, yes, apologize. But I'm just talking about, oh my gosh, if things don't go well, it's all my fault and I feel guilty. Or I'm ashamed of what I did because it didn't come out the way I wanted it to come out. We have to be careful of that. Again, unhealthy behaviors, worrying about too much about other people. And if you apologize a lot or too often about things that are really not your fault, obviously, if somebody's hurt or somebody passed away or their dog is sick or whatever, you may say, I'm sorry you're going through this, because we do want to empathize. But if it gets to the extreme, like you don't have the cell phone charger they need, or, just something crazy like that, it's like these things are not your responsibility. Don't take responsibility for them by apologizing. If my phone went off right now, I would probably just turn it off, which I already have, and put it back down and not go into a big, oh, I'm so sorry it went off and all that stuff. It's not necessary. But if we feel that it's necessary, there's something going on. A couple more is low self-esteem, low self-worth, and agreeing with other people in order to be liked. Now, think about let's say a friend says, come to the movies with me. And you say, okay, what are we going to go see? And they say some thriller movie or psychological thriller. And you don't like those, but you say yes in order to curry favor with this person or continue to have them like you. You might want to think about what's going on with you, because I would go like, why would somebody do that? And yet that was me, right? So before I tell you why somebody might do that, let me share a couple of other terminologies that we use for people pleasers that we may not even realize that that's what that means, and how that particular behavior could conform into people pleasing. So one of another name that it goes by, and it's not like a specific name in particular, but it's like anxious tendencies. And that occurred in childhood, but I'll get to that more in a minute. But when we're scared, there's a nervous sensation or feeling, we're worried that people won't like us or the person. That is why we go into people pleasing. If there's what that ends up happening is it creates a codependency. So codependent, that could be something we do because it makes us feel better to be leaning on the other person, getting soothed. Self-soothing is an issue for people that are codependent. And a lot of people don't even realize they're codependent. I didn't think I was till some certain things came up everybody's is like kind of personal to their life. Not because we want to hide it, but because our experiences are all different. So what might have been indicative of my codependency might not be indicative of someone else's. But overall, whatever it's called, however it's there, it all comes from a fear-based place. So again, I'm going to go over that right now, and I'm going to talk about where this people-pleasing may have come from. So it might have happened in someone's life that they became a people pleaser. Like I said before, you guys, I've been there. I'm trying to check everything, you guys. I've been there before. I was a people pleaser, and sometimes I still do, but I have moved quite far away from that. I have learned healthy patterns and habits and shifted away from unhealthy ones. And I am going to go over that in just a little bit. So I'll tell you what I do later on. I'm going to tell you what I do when these people-pleasing energies or sensations show up. So let's go over some reasons, again, why somebody might be a people pleaser. If when you were a child, you were raised in an unsettling, unsafe, or overbearing type of behavior household that you got from your caregiver, I'm going to call it a caregiver. That could be parents, moms, dads. It could be grandparents, aunts, uncles, coaches, neighborhood, if you stay at a neighbor's house a lot, anything like that. So anybody that may have cared for you in your childhood. So some of the unsafe, volatile behaviors include emotional or physical threats, and it may show up if you lived with or was around a lot someone who had addictions, drugs, alcohol, whatever, somebody that maybe was volatile and threw things. They may have brought unsafe other people into the home. Like I said, explosive or volatile behaviors. There may have been a constant threat of physical abuse or someone yelling at you, putting you down, making you feel less than. You may have lived in an unsettling household, and that wasn't necessarily unsafe, but it could have felt very, very uncomfortable. For example, you didn't feel that you could trust this caregiver person. You might have been left alone. If you tried to share your feelings, they may have been dismissed. That person, the caregiver, may have lied to you. You may have been left hungry or dirty or without the proper clothing, like it's cold and you didn't have the right sweater or jacket or whatever. There also may have been overbearing behaviors. This is an interesting one because a lot of times that one shows up as if they may be caring for you. So the overbearing behavior might be they work you too hard. They're pushing you to study longer. If you play an instrument or you do art or you are on a ball team, it's like, you've got to be really good, and they're pushing you harder than is necessary. So they're looking for perfectionism or overachieving. They might want you to be the best, right? So the caregiver may live vicariously through you, and you feel the need to be perfect for them to accept you. And it's like we often just about everybody, I think, maybe not, but I believe just about everybody wants acceptance, acknowledgement, and appreciation. So the results of living in these types of homes shows up as sometimes we are disconnected emotionally from one or both parents or from a caregiver if another caregiver is a primary one for us. It could show up as something called unloved child syndrome, sometimes unloved daughters, unloved sons, but you just feel unloved. Sometimes it's perfect child syndrome. So there's these uh, stigmas, if you will, that get attached to it, where you feel that you embody that, and it's unhealthy. And so, what do you do? Well, how can a child that either can or can't respond? What do they do, right? So what comes up is fighting or arguing, right? So you may argue, I don't want to do that, but here's this person that's big, and they're like, you're going to do it, right? So maybe you want to get away from them. You want to flee from their flight, right? So there's fight and flight, and this is where you go. I need to avoid. I want to get away as soon as possible. There's an anxiety that goes on because of that. And another one is freeze, right? We freeze up and it's like, I don't know what to do. So we shut down, we disconnect, we might become despondent or depressed. And so that's fight, flight, and freeze. But then there's one more, and it's called fawn or fawning. And that also shows up as people pleasing. In fact, that's the big one. And let me show you why that is. If a person can't fight or argue because the other person's much bigger than them, or they feel threatened in some way because maybe they have power over you, you're going to figure out, what else can I do if I can't fight? So maybe you people please in one of the ways. We call it fawning or people pleasing. It's the same. If you are somebody that would want to flee, but you cannot get away, what are you going to do? You're going to probably try to people please that person so that you feel safe and they don't hurt you. If you can't shut down, if they won't let you, no, you're not going to bed, you're going to go, blah, 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 and they like force you to move on, what do? You will probably fawn or people please because that helps you feel safe, right? So our caregivers, whoever those people may have been, they held a lot of power over us, whether we wanted them to or not. And while we were in the home, we didn't have much choice, right? They were the big people, we were not. So whether we realize it or not, a lot of it went into the unconscious part of our brain. Now, I'm going to say unconscious. It might have been the semi-conscious, subconscious, or somewhere else. It may have been the unconscious. I'm not 100% sure. I just know that it was not in the conscious mind, okay? So possibly out of sheer terror, or because your little body couldn't get away, you did something called people pleasing. And the people pleasing, it kept you safe, right? It was a survival skill. And you should be proud of your survival skill. You survived. And it's like, nobody taught you how to do that. You just figured it out on your own. And that's pretty awesome. Now, it's unfortunate why you figured it out on your own. And it probably stems from the core wounds that were inflicted on you of not feeling good enough, like this emotional pain that we go through. But it kept you safe. Now, some of the core wounds, just real quick, and I'll go back to the safety and then the special thing, which is the superpower that may have come out of it. But the core wounds are like, if you don't matter, if you don't feel like you're important, if there's an I'm less than you sensation inside of you, you may feel, I can't do this. I can't say no. I fear the other person. Again, you may feel it's all my fault. I'm bad and wrong. Maybe I feel like I'm not enough. That's a really big one for a lot of people. Like I've heard, no matter how much I accomplish, I still feel like I'm not enough. That's what's happening. Not feeling deserving or lovable or worthy, right? So these are some core wounds, and they are super, super painful. But also out of that discomfort and then getting that skill that you learned, even though it was a survival skill, you've created some superpowers for yourself, and I'm going to share those in just a minute. So if people pleasing was the safest place to be, it's because you were afraid that you were going to get spanked, yelled at, hurt, belittled, shamed, guilted. And it could have been like if if somehow your parents felt bad, oh, you got a B instead of an A on your report card, you feel the guilt and shame of their disappointment. All right. So let's keep going. Okay, so the people pleasing was the smartest thing you could have possibly done to keep yourself safe. Now, here's the problem, and then I'll talk about the solution. The problem is we don't stop people pleasing just because we left home. It was created, like I said, in the unconscious, again, semi-sub or whatever conscious, but not in the conscious part of the brain. It stays in this unconscious area forever. And it stays there, and we can't really get to it. We can't see it or feel it, or we sometimes experience it. But it's like, and a lot of people die from it with it still intact there. This is the problem. The thing is, there are ways to come out of that and be able to bring it into the conscious so that you can see it. Now, this is where the solution comes in. When we become consciously aware of what we're doing when we people please, how it feels in our body, and there's like a process to go through for that. It's not hard, but it's something you probably have never been taught to do. It's like learning the right information so that you can learn the skills that will allow you to move to a place where you're not people pleasing anymore, or you're doing it way less, or you're realizing what you did and then you can counteract it. So this is where like my coaching and my programs come in. There is a specific path to take. It's safe, easy, it's comfortable, it's logical. I said it's easy. It's not always simple, or maybe it's simple but not always easy. I get those confused. But it's very, very, very doable. You will learn, where does this people-pleasing thing live in my body? Where in my mind? You go through a process so that you can identify it. So when it happens, what we call the chemical soup begins to form, you have a way to stop it. So there's good parts and some not so good parts, and that's about the superpower I was talking about. So let's talk about the good parts and how some of the good parts might actually equal superpowers for you. All right, good parts. People pleasers might have a part of them that they've gotten so good at, like being polite, considerate, and pleasant to be around, where that's actually a superpower for them. I'm going to go say the rest of them, but you can hear for yourself, like, I am really, really good at that. Really, really good at that. So being polite, considerate, pleasant to be around, being kind, compassionate, or being of service, right? We don't want to get rid of that part of the people pleasing. Listening to others, empathizing with others, being easygoing and easy to talk to. And people love the conversations they have with you and rave about, oh my gosh, I just love talking to her. Maybe other people admire your communication skills and come to you asking for support. Or maybe you are super supportive of other people emotionally because you know what it feels like to not be supportive, not be supported. So then there are the not so good, or maybe more the detrimental aspects of people pleasing. And I want you to think about if that's also, I don't know if I call it a superpower. What's the opposite of superpower and underpower? I don't know. But sometimes people will use what they learned in becoming a people pleaser in a negative way, or in a not so good way, or in an unhealthy way. For example, manipulation, guilting people into doing things for you. That's not healthy or good. Now, you may have learned how to do that, and maybe in the household you lived in, it was important and it was survival skill, and bless you for it. And I'm glad that you figured that out to get through it. But we don't live in our childhood home, theoretically. I mean, some people might. But it's like we don't live there anymore. So now it's time to say, do I do that? Am I a manipulator? Do I guilt other people into doing things because I'm really good at it, right? Am I one of those people who are just so sweet I am so nice. Honey's dripping from my mouth. I'm like, kill them with kindness. I figured out, again, manipulating people by killing them with kindness. Or maybe I just say all the right things. In other words, all the right things with the person I'm with. So I can be pro with this person and con with this person on the same exact subject. Like I'm pro butterflies with this person, but I'm anti butterflies with this person. Like what is going on with that? Like how can somebody be on both sides? And I actually asked, I'll just say a people pleaser that one time, and they were like, well, I don't know. I agree with that person when I'm talking to them, and I can see that person's point too when I'm talking to them. I'm like, but where do you stand? What do you feel? Why do you feel the need to do both? The answer was, I don't know. Okay, how does anybody argue or come up with a way to work with somebody when they say, I don't know? So, okay. So anytime we are in a behavior pattern that's unhealthy, there's a certain feeling that we feel inside. And I know you know what I'm talking about. There's a discomfort in some way, or maybe a delightful glee that shouldn't be there, like, oh, I did that thing, but it's like, it wasn't really a good thing to do. So, but the sensation is there, and I know that you felt it, although you may not have been aware of what it was. The thing is, it's kind of that same sensation over and over again. Every time there's certain things that are going to bring on the people pleasing. There's what I call a chemical soup, where there's a certain amount of ingredients that all go in that soup. It shows up, and there's a certain sensation that we feel in our bodies. So pay attention or start paying attention and see if you can notice it, feel it, experience it. And I was able to do that by paying attention to this sensation, like really identifying what it was. And like that's what got me to realize, oh my gosh, there it is again. Oh, there it is again. And I'm people pleasing, or I'm people pleasing, and there's that sensation. And they went hand in hand. So sometimes we realize it days and weeks later, sometimes right after, like, dang it, I people please. But whatever, it's like it gets shorter and shorter and shorter. And now I can be literally in the middle of it going, oh, I'm people pleasing right now. And because I have the right skills and I know how to not do that, I can kind of either ask for a moment or do something, like think really quick so that I can kind of I don't want to say get out of it, but like not do it because I'm people pleasing. It does take some time, but it's okay. It took us a long time to get here, for some of us many decades, and it's going to take a minute for it to go away. So if I know that I'm going to go into a situation and there's somebody that like triggers me, like, oh, they're going to ask me to do something I don't want to do, I know now I have the skills to be able to figure out what are some possible responses that I can give to that person, so that when they ask, would I do something or participate in a particular way, I can say no because I'm taking care of myself. I'm loving myself. I have a boundary about that. There's a lot of these additional like skills, moral courage, like skills that I've learned that when combined together make it way easier. It's still always a little bit uncomfortable, but it's way easier to go, I cannot. I understand, I'm committed, whatever the words are. I will figure it out before I go so that I have that like tucked in my belt before I get there. So that's the first thing that I will do is I say, notice the feeling, the sensation, and then go from there. See how they're matching up. And you may have other sensations that you also experience. Just today we're talking about people pleasing, right? And the codependency thing. So the second thing, like I said, I know if I'm going into a situation and there's going to be possible or the potential for people pleasing, I will come up with some possible solutions for myself so that I can not people please. So how can you stop people pleasing? The unhealthy part, because you want to keep the parts that are good. You don't want to stop being kind or nice or being of service, being compassionate or empathetic. But let's think of a radio dial. 0, no sound. 10, way too loud, hurts your ears. So you want to kind of keep it in the, 5 to 6 range, 4 to 6, I don't know, whatever, however. Don't think of music. Think of like healthy, right? So it's not that going to 10 is too healthy, it's beyond healthy, and it's unhealthy on that side and it's unhealthy on this side. So no sound, not good. Way too much sound, painful, not good. Let's bring it back to the middle where we can have, look at that, that works out perfect, where we can have some, healthy behaviors around what people pleasing is. So to learn more about not just people pleasing, because when we do these behaviors, a lot of times we have a lot of emotional pain and we're trying to prevent the pain. That's all well and good. But if we don't learn what the pain is, if we don't learn where it came from, how it got there, what it's actually telling us, because it's actually telling us something, if we don't learn what that is, we're just going to have the pain over and over. We're going to repeat. It's going to stay in the unconscious, and we're not going to bring it to the conscious, and we're never going to get rid of it. So what I would like to do is invite you to a free webinar that I'm going to be having on Monday, the 30th of January. It's going to be at 10 a.m. Central, 11 a.m. Eastern, and that's 1600 UK, and that's 4 p.m. UK. It is live, and there's a Zoom link, an activity sheet, and I would love to get it to you. So in the description is a link, and just click the link, put in your name and email, and I will be sending you some information. And I would love to have you on that. And it is this coming Monday, so it's not that far away. So I'm Deb Pearson, helping you become more awesome on the inside. I hope you have a great day. Bye-bye.